Welcome back to episode number 4 of the BetterMen Project.
What's up, brother?
It's COLIN'S
Brother.
here with Jason Farrah. Thanks for joining us again, guys. We hope you enjoyed the previous episodes, and we have a great show planned for today.
Absolutely.
And so, real quick, if you listen to episode 3, we talked about what it is to be a real man. And there's a chance that if you listen to that episode, you're like, oh my gosh, so a real man is perfect. Well, everything these guys described, a real man is perfect.
Right.
And I just want that's to say and to get across the point of, no, absolutely not. A real man is not perfect. And while we shared all those qualities that we believe a real man to be, it's something that we're striving for. When I was pursuing basketball as my, I wanted to play college basketball on a scholarship on a Division I school. I was inspired by Michael Jordan. He was the best of the best. Was I going to be him? No, but he inspired me to keep climbing. And so I think that's really important as we look at, men that we are trying to become. We got to shoot for the best thing that we can be. And so I don't want you guys to think that you're failing if you can't be all of those
or
things.
that you're not a real man. And this is,
Correct.
I'm glad you said this because
Yeah.
it started coming up in my mind when we were saying it. And I think if I had to say it now, having done episode 3, I'd say a real man strives to be to attain these ideals. So maybe we were describing an ideal man. There's a real man and an
Sure.
ideal man, and maybe the real man is that which describes. So it's not. I started thinking. I'm like, man, I don't know if I even live up to. So am I a real man? Am I fake? I'm glad you said that because it was more of an ideal, I think,
Sure.
of what a real man would be, and we're striving towards an ideal. Is
Absolutely.
Is that fair to say?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yep. So, with that being said, hopefully, if you didn't listen to episode 3, go check it out because there's a lot of great stuff in there.
Absolutely.
And on to episode 4, Jason and I are unpacking the dilemma of fatherhood today. As being men that are pursuing growth in our careers, new chapters, but then also fathers and husbands. There is this dilemma of time. How do we spend our time, and where does it go, and how do we excel in our careers and not lose our family? How do we excel with our family and not lose our careers? Like, man, I know this is something I've battled for as long as I've been a father, and the same for you. So it's time to unpack it, man.
Yeah, I that's well said. I think it's the dilemma of fatherhood's multifaceted. Time is a huge one. And one of the dilemmas of fatherhood for me is I think we can all, and I cringe when I say this because I know Jax, Jet, Eli, Finley are going to look back. Well, Finley's going to be a mother, but I mean, still they're going to look back and they're going to be like, oh, you should have done this better. Maybe parenthood for her. But what can you do? I mean, you're going to make some mistakes. But what has been the tough part, the dilemma, is I can tell you what not to do. That's easy, right? And I think I can.
Sure.
That's another thing too. Is my dad didn't do this. My dad did this and shouldn't have done this. I mean, he was learning too, and he was going. And I have that perspective now as a father. So it's really hard to know what to do. And one of the things that we struggle with, I agree with you, is time because, and how to devote it, where to devote it. You want to be all these things. Mothers, I mean, my wife struggles with this as well, just as much, a little bit different, but just as much as we do. And so I want to, when I'm thinking about being a father, the first thing I'm going to think about, and just where my mind goes naturally, and I've since tempered this with the reality of it's much more than this, but as I've got to be this provider, well, to generate the income and create the life for my family and build that protective hedge around them, I had to realize, well, to do it right, so I don't feel like I have enough time to do it. And then number 2 is, well, maybe it's not just all that anyway. Maybe it's not just bringing in as many dollars as bringing home as much bacon as you can, or bringing as many dollars as you can. I need to prepare them mentally. I need to serve my wife, serve my kids, do these other things. But one of the things I think I struggle with innately, or initially at least, and it's something that seems to dominate my thoughts, is as the perceived primary provider, perceived is the key word. How do I fit it in and still take care of my kids and still be there for my wife? Do you struggle with the same thing?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years. And so when you're building something, it takes time. And it's something my wife and I have actually talked about, as I'm building my speaking career now. And she's fearful that I'm just going to be gone all the time now. Because when you're building something, you have to sacrifice. You have to give time to it, or else it just takes forever. And maybe you never build it. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of birthday parties that I missed out on. There's a lot of things that when my kids were young that my wife would have desired for me to be there, and my importance was, I've got to go do my work thing. I've got to, and certainly we can't be there for everything. There's only 24 hours in a day, and the struggle for me was that I felt like I was fucking up either way.
It's like a damned if you, damned if you don't, right?
If I was working to generate income, then I was not there for my family. But if I was there for my family, then I was not generating income.
Right.
And this has been the push and pull dilemma of what my family needs and what my family needs, whether it's income or it's time and relationship, right?
Right.
And so balancing those out has been the hardest part. And I'm not sure I'm figuring anything out except to try to be more efficient with my time.
I'm glad you just said that, Colin. Because I thought for sure, dude, you because this dude's got some wisdom. He's been in this space a long time. He's been thinking about this a long time. Has written 2 books, etc. And I always feel like I always battle the inferiority complex. Like, this dude is so smart when it comes to relationships and people and motivation and different things. But I'm glad you just said that, because I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I don't know that I truly know the answers. But what I do know now is it means so much to me, and it's therapeutic to share these thoughts with you and other men and go through these common struggles together. And I never did that before, unless maybe it was a brief complaint to another male colleague at work or something, which is not the right setting to do, and you won't learn from it. But but I do know intentionality and being purposeful to seek out and these discussions, think through them, work through them. And maybe I'll get a small answer for a small portion of it. For instance, what I realized through experience was that you can definitely trade your health for wealth. And I felt like, okay, as long as I am going to work, and even if going to work as a surgeon meant I go in, I have to be there at 6:30 a.m. for a quote-unquote checkout with the team, which means I got to get up at 5 or 5:30, and even earlier if I'm going to work out. And then I'm going to stay there till, the next checkout happens at 6:30 p.m. And then you got to finish up all the paperwork. Then you got to go around and see other patients. And, you might have surgeries that went late, or emergency surgeries that started right when you're supposed to, right at checkout time, quote-unquote. And so then invariably you won't leave. And you saw this with me when you traveled with me. You won't leave until the hospital. You don't get home until maybe 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, sometimes 10, 11 o'clock. If it's maybe a mass casualty comes in, it's not every day, but the problem is then that will go for a week, and then you have to, just because the need of the hospital, and this is just where it could be the entrepreneurial business, it could be the financial advisor on Wall Street, it could be the whatever you do, but then the next week you got to work 7 days. Then next week, and then you're like, oh my gosh. But then I said to myself, well, as long as I'm bringing home maximum income and revenue, I've done my job. I haven't done my job. I haven't. I owed it to myself to take care of myself. I owed it to my family to take care of myself. I owed them time. And so trying to find that balance now, having transitioned out of the work environment that I was into the work environment I'm in now, it's really opened my eyes that I was literally trading my health for wealth, and I was trading my family's health for wealth.
Unintentionally.
Unintentionally.
You
and thinking,
thought you thought you were
I thought
doing
I was
the
doing what I
right
was supposed to
thing
do.
by providing as much income as possible for your family. That was your goal at one point.
Right.
Well, then when your family grows and things change, then our goals have to change. What becomes success to us? There was a point where that was not success to you anymore. You had attained it,
That's
you
true.
had achieved it, and then it was like, hold on, something's missing.
Right.
Like this isn't the road that I want to be going down.
Right.
Right? And so then you made a change.
And I would tell you, though, sustaining a career in any kind of, from my perspective as a insanely busy in terms of hours, trauma surgeon, critical care surgeon, emergency general surgeon, sustaining a career, if you're going to sustain that career, there's nothing wrong with that, but you've got to be absolute about what you will and won't tolerate in your life, and you've got to be at a place that will work with you on that or can adapt. And so you've got to make your family a priority. You got to make yourself a priority, and that's the dilemma. It's not just working blitzkrieg all out, day in day out.
If you want a family,
if
you want a successful
family, yeah, that's right.
Right. So there are people that don't care for that, right, and they're just pursuing what they want to do and what makes them happy, and they're not interested in relationships or building a family.
For sure.
And so they can go that route.
Yeah, and these hyper-productive
yes.
men or individuals that are, yeah.
But if part of our goal, part of our happiness, part of what we want out of life is to have a good, loving, sustaining, healthy family,
yes,
we can't not spend any time with them and just quote-unquote provide for them and think that we're going to have a successful family.
And I look at people like that. I see them on YouTube and everything. And but by the way, I don't believe in that you shouldn't work hard. You should, but sometimes working hard has to be defined maybe in a different way. Being at home more now, I've realized how hard it is to be home with the kids and be a mom. Well, what my wife's role as a mother was, and that's not. Being a mom doesn't mean just being the caretaker. Being a dad means being a caretaker too.
Sure.
I've learned it's just how we had it set up. But I started thinking about what you just said. I thought to myself, how much easier would it be if I wasn't a father and I didn't have to, and I could just work and you almost. There are times when I would look at other people's lives and I would see them, they didn't have a family and they were maybe single and they were working and I knew how to do that. And that was the problem. It was easier and I was jealous of what was easier. But then I realized the righteous path, the harder path, the path of committing to a family and developing yourself and trying to adapt to that is so rewarding because of what I would have missed out on. And I have these moments in time, and they're continually developing, where I spend time with my kids or my wife at home, and it's amazing. I'm thinking, well, those people don't have that. It may not be important to them, and that's fine. But to me, it was important, and I wanted to have a good life, and I wanted to have that part. I want to have that in my life.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is fulfillment.
Yes.
Right? And
yes, that's absolutely right.
And we can pursue an easy path, but it doesn't lead to fulfillment. And even when we think about the achievements that we have, it's the difficulty and the struggle that we work through and that we power through and that we learn through and grow through that makes it so special.
Absolutely.
And so to be able to have a family that is healthy and sustainable is hard as shit.
Absolutely.
It's really hard. And so for any of you new fathers out there and it's really difficult right now, yes, it is hard. It's hard because you're not totally equipped to do what you are expected to do or what you think you ought to do. It's difficult. And for some of you guys who are thinking, man, I can't wait to have a family, awesome. Awesome. But it's hard.
That was me. Yeah, you have no idea how hard it is. Look at producer Nick. He is just belly laughing over there because he knows as a new dad himself.
Right, but it is fantastic.
Right.
And most of the greatest things in life come with that sort of push and pull.
The other side of fear, but other side of difficulty too.
Right? That's where the great stuff is, because the easy stuff, anybody can have it and anybody can get to that, and there's no effort, there's no challenge, there's no barrier to entry. But we're talking about fulfillment. right? And fulfillment so many times comes through relationships.
Right.
Whereas achievement, I mean, I think we all know pretty damn rich people who are still miserable.
God,
and they're
that's true,
cranky,
man.
and
That's
they're
true.
and
And we,
right?
man, you just dropped another dime. That is the conflation of achievement with fulfillment is rampant in our society, and probably has been since the dawn of human time. I mean, and it's hard to forget. It's hard to learn that. And man, that's what I was. I was conflating achievement or monetary achievement with fulfillment, or status in my career as fulfillment, and totally conflating it.
But you don't know that until you achieve it, and you realize that it's not fulfilling you the way you thought it would.
Right.
And so that's kind of one of the reasons that we talk about self-awareness so much, is the goals that I'm shooting after, are they really mine?
Yeah.
Or is it what I feel like society tells me that's what would make me successful? Or
Absolutely.
am I comparing myself to my brother or my sister, or am I doing what my parents said I ought to do? Or if we are taking ownership of our own fulfillment, knowing that this is what will bring happiness to us, and we go down that path, knowing that we'll have to make adjustments, then we're actually owning what will bring us fulfillment, instead of trying to achieve something on somebody else's timeline or what they desired for us.
I agree. And I think, too, there's a lot of fear that comes with that. And you fight the fear of the unknown. And when I was making the decision to move to a different type of work setup and get out of I've been 10 years in post fellowship work life at that point, and there was a lot of fear, and it was the fear of the unknown. And what does that look like? I think it will be more fulfilling, but will it? And you have to come to the realization that achievement is not fulfillment. Fulfillment, you need these other aspects, relationships, and things that we're talking about, and time doing that. But what's going to happen? One thing that struck me at that point was, well, if I stay on the same path I'm on, come 1 year from now, what is the percentage that I'll be happy? 0%. Or you said another way, 100% unhappy. If I change and if I risk, and I might fail, then that's fine. But what is the chance that I will be happy? I'll succeed, I'll be happy, and those things. Well, I don't know. Could we say 50-50? Sure. I mean, you can say that all about a lot of things in life. So I don't think it was crazy to say 50-50. Well, heck, I'd rather risk this for a 50% chance of happiness rather than stay where I'm at for a 0% chance of happiness, or 50% chance of being happy versus 100% chance I'll be unhappy. And so that was one tool that helped me get through that small piece of the dilemma of fatherhood, where there's only so much time in the day. I had conflated monetary and career achievement with fulfillment, found out it wasn't true, and that I would need to set up my life in a different way, and my family needed me in a different way. Then literally, we had so many discussions about this. I had so many discussions about this with my wife that it was ultra clear. And so, yeah, I can stay on the road I was on, make money, have career status, but maybe end up divorced.
Yeah.
Or certainly unfulfilled and be unhappy, being right back in the same position. Or, so that's one tool, that juxtaposition of staying on the same path you're on versus this other path, that helped me with that one little aspect of the dilemma of fatherhood. Have things like that come up in your life where were there little tools or questions or scenarios that you use to kind of navigate through that tough?
Yeah, I think when it comes to time, is like, I want to be available when my kids are available. So now, my kids are 12 and 10. They're in school. My job that I've set up through my career as an entrepreneur, training basketball players, has been primarily after school, when high school
yeah.
players get out of school. And
Right.
so then my kids get out of school, and
Yeah.
then I go to work
Right.
for the next 4 or 5 hours. So I don't see them much if it's like that, right?
Right.
So over the past several years, it's been, growing as an entrepreneur to where I can entrust other people to do the coaching and the training, right? So then I can spend less time on the court and run a business and not just work in my business. And then number two,
But you had to give that. You had to
100%.
So maybe that was part of the growth.
It was right. It was
You had to give that
I had
up.
I had to give that up, but I also had to build to that point where I could also
Well,
do
that's
that,
true.
right? And the other part of it is, hey, if I'm going to do something, I enjoy golfing.
Right.
I need to do it in a time where it's not like, oh, my kids are home on the weekend, my wife's home on the weekend, and I'm peacing out going golfing for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Like that. And listen, that was not just like, oh, Colin, here's a beautiful insight just dropped on your little dome. This was enough
Drop from
arguments
heavens.
from my wife being like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you taking all of this time from our family? And it, like, when she put it that way, it was kind of like, oh, okay, maybe I need to reevaluate how I'm spending my time, even when there's availability with my family. Right?
Let me ask you a question. Let me stop for a
Yep.
second and ask you a question, because this is important to me, and I think it's important to the listeners. Do you think that a majority of men have, because I have had those same discussions / arguments with my wife, right?
Yeah.
Do you think a majority of married men have those discussions / arguments with their wife?
I think it depends on their relationship. I think
Would it surprise you if I said, and I don't know, but if I said most men probably come to that discussion with their wife or similar discussions?
It wouldn't surprise me for people who have good relationships. For people who have shitty relationships, a lot of men will set it up where a woman just does what they want them to.
And they'll just kind of avoid that conversation.
They avoid the conversation. They don't want to be told what to do.
That's fair.
I've met plenty of well-to-do men who've done successful in their businesses, and really they treat their wife like an employee.
Right.
And so to me, that's a shitty relationship.
Absolutely.
When it comes down to, like, this is how I always see it with me and my wife. My wife is my queen.
Yeah.
And if I'm a king, that's my queen. We are equals.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And so those conversations, she sees things that I can't see.
100%.
And so I have to be open. Now, look, this is also, we're 20 years into our relationship.
That's what I'm saying.
16 years into our marriage. The first few years was me stumbling on my face, learning how to be a husband, learning how to grow a relationship, learning how to love my wife in a way that I didn't just understand love in the way that she understood love.
But there's a point in time when you weren't doing those things and maybe weren't learning from those things, and were kind of repeating mistakes.
Yes,
potentially.
as talked about in the last episode, life will keep teaching you the same damn lesson if you don't learn it.
Right. Okay. And then of those people that have those conversations, because you bring up a really good point, and I like this. You always challenge me on my thinking. Of the people that have even had those important conversations, and that's a step, by the way. Kudos if you're having those conversations.
Yes.
But of those people that do, perhaps there's a sub-segment that then go on and they don't change it, or they don't change it until very late, and maybe sometimes too late. But then hopefully, I'm doing it earlier than I would have otherwise, or at least I'm doing it, right?
Yeah.
Could always come earlier, but and we're 10 years into marriage. You're doing it and I don't know, it's 20 years of marriage. Maybe you started doing it at like year 10, whatever. But there was this point in which you changed, right? You had those conversations, and then you started trying to execute on the things that you learned from them. What was the difference, though? Why are there some men that go on to keep doing the same behaviors into perpetuity or infinity? And why did Colin start changing?
I think it's what we're motivated by. And so some of us, we don't want to change, because if we change, then we feel like we're wrong. At that precipice,
yeah.
we feel like, well, if we have to admit that we need to change, or that we ought to change for the betterment of our relationship and our family, then we are admitting that we are off.
Right.
And I think the ego does not allow us to do that often, right? And so if we can see our spouse or our partner or even our kids at times, my kids enlighten me on things that I don't see, and if I can see them as more of teammates rather than, there was a time in my relationship with my wife where I felt like she was trying to mother me. And I felt like she was trying to control me, and I felt like she was trying to control my behavior or what I said. And at that point, it didn't feel like an equal relationship. It felt like, man, this is how my mom talks to me. Fuck this.
Well,
and so with that didn't create a healthy dynamic between us,
right?
Because I was not okay with how I felt like she was treating me. Now,
and she's not perfect either.
No,
just like
absolutely
you're not. Perfect,
not.
So
now
she could have maybe been doing that. I mean,
now
potentially.
but in fairness to her, have I acted like a child at
that
times?
Needed
right?
Exactly.
Right? And in all honesty,
so this is the Jocko Willing thing, where your personal responsibility. If you want to change, don't look at the other person. Look at yourself first.
Yes.
And change. And I know you do that, and you subscribe to that thought.
Absolutely, but still, change comes oftentimes when we hit rock bottom, and we are almost forced to change, or we can just be like, damn, like nobody has it all together.
Right.
I don't have to keep this ego up that's preventing me from changing.
Maybe too, if there's a stimulus for change, and maybe as we develop as a society and we develop as men and learn, and we have these mediums to look at podcasts and coaching and things. This is a plug, but I'm going to tell you why in a second here. So you can hit rock bottom, and you can go through those things, and you can be forced to change, or it will lead to the demise of whatever it is, the relationship or whatever. Or you can plug into a group.
Absolutely.
And share those things with guys, and that's okay. You can reach out to a BetterMen group, a BetterMen project. You can or other types of people in your community relationships that you can develop with other men. Something as men we don't always naturally do. At least I didn't. And you'll gain those insights that somebody has already gone through, and the collective wisdom is greater than the wisdom of a single person. And let me tell you how this manifested recently in my life was. So in some personal one-on-one coaching that Colin was doing with me, and I'm not, please believe, I'm not trying to just shamelessly plug him. If he gets somebody that wants to work with him from this, great. That's fantastic, because here's the reality, that it is a massive benefit and a value add in your life. And let me tell you why. So I was really struggling with some interpersonal relationships, specifically with my wife, and Colin and I just organically started talking about it, and it was like, oh, I've gone through those same things. So number one, I felt relief that somebody else had gone through it. It immediately, my stress level went down. It was nice to be able to just share it. And I felt, because he was vulnerable to share his reality, it developed trust. I then became vulnerable to share mine. And I learned some insights from somebody who'd already been there, was a couple steps ahead in that path. And I literally went home and did something. And my wife asked me about it. And I said, oh, I learned that from Colin. And she was like, really? I said, yeah, I did. So I thought I'd try it. And she's like, will you tell Colin? I said, thank you. And this is a true story. This literally happened this past summer. And so, fatherhood comes with it, this natural dilemma. And being a man, women have their own set of dilemmas in motherhood. But as fathers, we're qualified to speak to the fatherhood. It comes inherently with fatherhood. Every man's going to face it, whether you like it or not. And becoming a part of a group is one way to reach that wisdom quicker, and maybe not have to go, I don't know, maybe not have to go through some of the things. I literally shamelessly used the technique you taught me. I gave you credit on the back end, but I don't know. To me, that stands out as we're sitting here. I'm thinking, wait a second, I did this. I literally was able to it was a small leap, but it was an important leap.
Yeah.
And use it, execute on it. Do you think it's a loaded question because I literally got it from you, so it's maybe not even fair, but do you think there's something to that?
100%.
Yeah.
Learning and growing with each other is huge. And a lot of times as men, we don't want to feel like a lot of us feel alone.
Yeah.
And we feel like we're the only ones that are fucking up, and everybody else has it together. And all the other dads are great. Oh, man, look how great he is as a dad. Oh, look how great he is as a provider. Look how great. The reality is, fellas, this is hard. Like, this is a difficult thing. And when your kids are young, time is, you don't sleep well. Like, you have these people, humans, creatures that are totally dependent on you for survival. And it's the hardest time of our lives in terms of, pursuit of our career, and then also mixing that with being a father. So for those of you guys that are in the thick of it, it is a difficult time. And so I just want to validate that for you. It is a difficult time. But I also want to encourage you to pursue learning, to pursue growth, to not take the difficult time as something that shows that you're inadequate and you're messing up.
No, you're just human.
You're just human. And really, it's a journey. It's a journey. Fatherhood is a journey of which we want to keep growing and developing and learning new tools, learning new ways to communicate, learning new things about ourselves so that we can better be a father along with being a great provider, because that's a part of being a good father.
Surround yourself with mentors, groups of people that have been there, that have expertise, or just have an ear to listen, a shoulder to lean on. Andrew Carnegie, I think it was Andrew Carnegie, said one of his greatest strengths as a business person, mega millionaire, days old, steel magnate, what have you, was that he knew who to surround him with. The people. He didn't make the decisions necessarily. He just knew he could just get the smartest group of people around. So, and that was his strength. So it's not a sign of weakness to get people around you that help. That's actually a sign of strength.
100%.
And it's trying to Simon Tunch, don't you think?
100%.
All right, brother.
The Dilemma of Fatherhood. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If so, go ahead and drop some comments to us.
Smash the like button.
Smash the like button. Subscribe to that joint. And as always, remember, don't ever forget your best days are ahead of you.
Absolutely. See you next time, man.
Peace out.
Peace.